Alright, I know what you're thinking. Fall, didn't that end like forever ago? And yeah, you got me, this video is fashionably late, but hey, great comics on a budget never go out of season. So whether you're still hunting for deals, spending that leftover holiday cash, or just here for the love of cheap comics, I've got you covered. Today, we're diving into the top 10 comics on a $20 budget for fall 2024, better late than never, right? Let's get into it. First up, in the number 10 spot, we're looking at Creature Commandos number 1. Cover dated May 2000. This is the first solo title for the team that debuted back in November 1980's Weird War Tales number 93. Featuring cover and interior art from Scott Eaton and a Timothy Truman story, this issue kicks off the 8-issue series that ended in December of 2000. If you've watched the channel for any amount of time, you know that one of my favorite budget-friendly tips is to look for those first solo series issues for characters whose first appearances are putting too much stress on your wallet. The Creature Commandos show has been out on Max since the first week of December, but I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. I mean, hell, I haven't even got to watch The Penguin yet, so Creature Commandos isn't going to hit my screen anytime soon. That said, the series has done some good for this overlooked and previously forgotten series. Recent sales of issue 1 have been in the $10 to $20 range as of late, with sales of complete sets of 1 through 8 going for $50 to $60. Not too bad for a series that had languished in the dollar bins for about 20 years. Moving on down to the number 9 spot, we find the first comic book appearance of one of the more terrifying bad guys from the 90s Fox X-Men cartoon series in Uncanny X-Men 191, the first appearance of Nimrod. Not only does this T-2000 level Sentinel have a name that every middle schooler loved to fling as an insult, but this guy is the Michael Myers of murder bots. No matter what you threw at Nimrod, he was going to get up and keep coming at you. Cover dated March 1985. The cover for this one is pretty underwhelming and it doesn't even feature Nimrod, but if we're being honest, a cool Nimrod cover is pretty tough to find. On the creative side, John Romita Jr. handled the cover art and the interior breakdowns, while Dan Green inked and completed the finished art. And the writer, no surprise here, it was Chris Claremont. Yeah, I said X-Men, right? Recent sales have been plentiful, with prices generally around the $10 mark, but high-end raw copies tend to run closer to $15 to $20. Next up, we're going to dive into the Disney afternoon with a debut issue for one of the Cartoon Block's founding IPs with Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers number 1. Cover dated June 1990, this issue was the premiere of the Rescue Rangers, but Chip 'n Dale had been around for decades when this one hit the stands. With a text story in Walt Disney's Comics and Stories 25, and then an unnamed appearance as the Chipmunks in Walt Disney's Comics and Stories 69, and finally a full-on first comic book appearance in 1948's Walt Disney's Comics and Stories 89, the Chipmunks were no strangers to the comic book format. The Rescue Rangers consisted of Chip and Dale, Monterey Jack, Gadget Hackwrench, and Zipper the Fly, who were all working to thwart the schemes of the villainous Fat Cat, all of whom are featured on the debut issue's cover, as luck would have it. Speaking of the cover, it was drawn by artist Peter Gilrudd, while the interior pencils from Hector Savadera, and the story was adapted by Scott Savadera from a Ted Stones and Kevin Hopps script. Now, back in 2022, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers was reimagined for the 21st century in a new animated film that seemed to be largely well received. While the movie brought Chip 'n Dale to a new generation, it didn't send Rescue Rangers number 1 to the moon, but that's why we can still include it on this list today. Recent sales tend to range between $10 and $15 of late, which is a pretty affordable trip down memory lane for those of us who not only caught the Cartoon Block back in the day, but also spent untold hours playing the Rescue Rangers NES game, which easily makes my short list of favorite NES games. Cruising on to the number 7 spot, we find a late Bronze Age Thor book that winds up being a net neutral for the Asgardian royal family, as we're first introduced to Thor's mom Frigga in the same issue that Thor's brother Balder dies, all of which happens in Thor 274. Cover dated August 1978. They didn't bury the lead with this one, as the John Buscema cover tells you right out of the gate that Balder's going to have a bad day. The story, titled The Eye and the Arrow, was written by Roy Thomas, with interior breakdowns from Buscema and finished art from Tom Palmer. Oh, and for all the animal lovers out there, Odin goes Old MacDonald in this issue, as we're introduced to his 8-legged horse, Sleipnir and his ravens, Hugin and Munin. I'm sure I said some of that wrong, but don't worry, no mythological creatures were harmed in the making of this issue. Thor 274 comes early in a run of affordable key issues, beginning with Thor 272 that runs fairly solidly through issue 294. From the first appearance of Loki's wife Sigyn, I probably butchered that one too, a Jane Foster bondage cover, and the first cameo of the Timekeepers, there's quite a few affordable books for a Thor fan to chase down right here. Thor 274 is one of the more valuable issues from this period, as recent sales have mostly been in the $10 to $15 range for higher grade copies. The number 6 book is a shining example of that great Harvey Dent quote from The Dark Knight. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And one thing is for damn sure, Hal Jordan lived long enough to become the villain in Green Lantern number 50. Cover dated March 1994, GL50 is absolutely loaded with significant happenings. And off his rocker, Hal Jordan rolls into Oa, he kills Sinestro, Kilowog, and most of the Guardians of the Universe, along with destroying the Central Power Battery in his first appearance as the villain Parallax. The sole surviving Guardian manages to make their way to Earth, where they give their last power ring to Kyle Rayner, who makes his very first appearance in this issue, and after accepting the ring, he becomes the new Green Lantern on the very last page of the book. Written by Ron Mars, the cover and interior art was from Darryl Banks. Now, this run of Green Lantern is very collectible, and it's managed to remain quite affordable as well. While it's not the most valuable issue in this run, Green Lantern 50 is by far the busiest issue. Rewind this segment back and listen again to all of that crap that happens in this issue. Thank God it was a 52-page anniversary issue, or there would have been absolutely no way that all of this would have fit into a single book. Recent sales have seen a bit of an uptick in price lately, with most sales now requiring between $15 and $20 to secure a copy. Up next, we have a selection from one of my absolute favorite modern comic book runs, Ed Brubaker's Captain America, and specifically Captain America number 16. Cover dated May 2006, Cap 16 comes out just after the Winter Soldier story arc wrapped and starts us down the path that would lead into the death of Steve Rogers in Captain America number 25. But what this issue is most well known for is being the introduction of Cynthia Schmidt, the Red Skull's daughter, as Sin. She previously appeared as Mother Superior, debuting back in Captain America 290, but I have to say, I like this take on her much better. In addition to Sin's debut, we also get a pretty awesome Crossbones cover, courtesy of Steve Epting. Artist Mike Perkins joins Brubaker for the interior art for the story, which is titled Collision Courses Part 1. Sin is a character that we haven't seen pop up in the MCU yet, and I think her character would play pretty well in that sandbox. It's just a shame that Crossbones was taken off the board over there, because those two make a pretty wicked pair. Like most issues from the Brubaker run, Cap 16 has cooled off over the last couple of years, but that just makes it feel right at home here on the $20 budget video, as most recent sales have put it in the $10 to $15 price range. At the number 4 spot, I'm going to make some of you yell at your screens when I say, I already miss fall and the holidays, but I'm keeping the spirit of the season alive by talking about Halloween Comic Fest 2016's The Nightmare Before Christmas. Now, I can't find anything to confirm this, but I also can't find anything to refute it, but this appears to be the very first comic book appearance of the Nightmare Before Christmas gang. As you may have pieced together by the full title of this book, it was released in October 2016 as part of the annual Halloween Comic Fest event. If you're not familiar with Halloween Comic Fest, it is the goth younger sibling of the more well-known Free Comic Book Day. It has been a great way for comic shops to get in on some spooky season action, and the books often tend to be seasonally appropriate. I've got to admit that despite being well situated on the timeline to be a Nightmare Before Christmas fan, in fact, I've never watched it all the way through.
You serious?
Even so, it's impossible for me to deny the impact that this film has had, and it continues to be a relevant cultural touchpoint going on, 32 years later or something like that at this point. Well, normally I like to talk about recent sales at this point in the segment. That's going to be pretty tough in this case because we have a single solitary sale for this book reporting on eBay at the moment. And that was from back in early December 2024 when somebody paid all of $5 including free shipping for a copy of this teeny tiny Nightmare Before Christmas comic book, placing it well within our $20 budget. Next up, we're taking a look at a guilty pleasure book of mine from way back in my early comic book collecting days, and the dreaded Clone Saga with the Web of Spider-Man 119. Cover dated December 1994, this is the follow-up issue to the debut of the Scarlet Spider. But Webb had more to give as another Spider-Man clone debuts here with the introduction of Kane. Now, Kane was the Jackal's first attempt at making a clone of Peter Parker, but as a quick peek under the mask would reveal, things didn't go exactly right. Kane suffered from disfiguring degeneration due to a hiccup in the cloning process, but that wouldn't keep him down, as he would not only survive the Clone Saga, but he would go on to take up the mantle of the Tarantula and Scarlet Spider later on. Web 119 is part 3 of the Exile Returns story arc from writer Terry Cavanaugh and artist Stephen Butler, who provided the cover art and the interior art breakdowns, while Randy Emberlin handled the interior finishing art. Higher-end raw copies have been averaging $15 to $20 sales prices recently, but there are plenty of copies moving around the $10 price point if you're not looking for a super nice copy. Well, when I started making this list, the number 2 book was seasonally appropriate, but it's colder than hell outside as I'm finally getting around to making this video, so it still seems kind of relevant. Let's hop into the haunted world of Hellboy with our number 2 book, Hellboy Krampusnacht. Now, Krampusnacht translates into Krampus Night, which appears to be December 5th, just before the Feast of St. Nicholas on December 6th. Thank you, Wikipedia. As the story goes, St. Nick rewards kids on the nice list, while Krampus, he handles the kids on the naughty list a little differently. Well, in Hellboy Krampusnacht, you might not be surprised to hear that Big Red squares off against Krampus in the main story. The story must have been pretty good, as it did win an Eisner in 2018 for the best single issue or one-shot. Cover dated December 2017, Krampusnacht's creative team consisted of Adam Hughes and Hellboy creator Mike Mignola. Both of them provided a cover for the issue, while Mignola scripted the story and Hughes provided the interior pencils. Now, $20 seems to be the target price for this one lately, with a few sales going higher, particularly for the Mignola cover, and there are also several sales reporting in the $10 to $15 range as well, so just be a little patient. Topping my fall top 10 comics on a $20 budget list is Ultimate Fantastic Four #1. Now, by this point, we've all seen the Fantastic Four trailer, and it seems like interest in the Fab Four is ramping up to levels that are really rarely ever seen. Because let's be honest, for as important as Marvel's first family is to the Marvel Universe historically, they haven't really captivated readers or collectors for some time now. I decided to feature Ultimate Fantastic Four #1, as the MCU has been known to integrate a lot of elements of the Ultimate Universe into their characters and plots, and I suspect that this is going to continue with the Fantastic Four. Ultimate Fantastic Four is the kickoff point in the Ultimate Universe for the Fantastic Four, despite a faux Fantastic Four apparently appearing in Marvel Team Up and then also in Ultimate Spider-Man Special prior to this issue. So essentially, Ultimate Fantastic Four #1 is to Uncanny X-Men 266, as Marvel Team Up 9 is to Uncanny X-Men Annual 14, where a first appearance doesn't actually count for some reason. Ultimate FF1 is a very budget-friendly entry, as you should have no problem picking up a copy of this one for $5 to $10 all in, including shipping, right? Like most Ultimate titles, Ultimate Fantastic Four is a pretty decent read, and let's not forget that the Marvel Zombies originate from this series, and most issues are still quite affordable in today's market. So if you want to get in on some FF stories without going into the poorhouse, Ultimate Fantastic Four might just be the title you're looking for. And there you have it, 10 awesome comics you can grab for just $20. Hopefully this list helps you track down some great reads without breaking the bank. And yeah, this video may have been a little late, but hey, great deals never expire. If you enjoyed this, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and drop a comment with your favorite budget-friendly comic find. And don't worry, I'll try to be slightly more on time for the next one. Thanks for watching, and happy hunting. Collect responsibly, and I'll see you in the next video.